Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to 2020 and welcome back to the Formula One Grid Talk podcast. It's been a while, but pre-season testing is almost upon us. Today, we'll be discussing the cars that have been revealed so far and offering what we can in terms of an opinion going forward into the 2020 season. We are powered by the F1 Chronicle. Visit f1chronicle.com for news, reviews, and all things F1. Hosting today will be me, George Howson. Joining me today are motorsports fanatic Rhys Evans.
Hello.
Sports journalist Louis Edwards.
Hello.
Master of Engineering Jack Watson.
Afternoon.
And McLaren superfan Owen Davies.
Hi there.
Thanks for joining us, lads. Really do appreciate it. So let's start with the champions from last year and the champions from the last 6 years, Mercedes. Now, Louis, going into this season, it's kind of hard to improve on perfection, really. But obviously, there are some big changes with Mercedes livery this year. Gone with some red this year, very adventurous.
Yeah, it was a shock. Wow, red on them. I think it's quite nice that they put it on top of the sort of the air filter. Well, the air box on the top of the car is like Lauda's cap or almost on the top of the car. It's quite cool. But it's going to be tough to see whether Mercedes could really make huge gains on their car from last year because, as you said, it was a very, very dominant car. But this is Mercedes, and every year they keep improving, and I can't wait to see what they do.
Yeah, me too. I mean, they are the benchmark, aren't they, Jack? I mean, I don't know if you've had time to actually look in detail at things like around the barge boards and stuff like that, but the detail going around the side pods and stuff for the aerodynamics, it's unbelievable, isn't it?
It is. It's quite ironic considering we've had regulations to smooth out and simplify that area, and it's still as detailed and as finicky as ever. We've already had the admission that it probably wasn't the right step. These are the sort of temporary regulations we had. But, I mean, yeah, it will be interesting to see if there's anything else they can pull out of that aerodynamically, because it seemed like a fairly sound car. Maybe in terms of the performance deficits they did occasionally face at some circuits, that might have been more down to their wheelbase, with it being an unusually long car. So, yeah, be interested to see how that performance stacks up.
Yeah, I mean, they are the benchmark, aren't they? I mean, you know, it's difficult to see where they can improve and everything and where teams can actually catch them for 2020. 2021 is, you know, in some ways a realistic target for teams like McLaren, like Renault, like Red Bull to catch up to Mercedes. But it's going to be very difficult this year, isn't it?
Oh, without a doubt, yeah. It will be interesting to see what the gaps are between the top three and, you know, if the kind of order is still the same or whether there's any changes there.
Yeah, they're definitely the favourites going into this year. In part as well, Rhys, because of their drivers. I mean, you know, Lewis Hamilton, we can wax lyrical about him all day. But as well, Valtteri Bottas is a very solid driver too. I mean, he got second in the Drivers' Championship last year as well, despite the big gap. I mean, it's tough to see how these teams are going to catch them, but you never know. There's always a chance. But that Mercedes does look like a genuine good improvement on last year's car.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it would be nice to see them do the whole, get all the records and completely dominate these new rules. But I think everybody wants to see a fight as well. So it's just a case now of hoping if Ferrari and Red Bull have managed to what they can bring to the table. And I think you mentioned Bottas. I got the feeling last year he really stepped up. There was a lot of talk pre-season about, you know, and even in 2018 about Ocon taking over and that he was underperforming and stuff. But he seemed a lot stronger last year and a proper number two, challenging Lewis a lot as well.
Yeah, definitely improving from Bottas. He's going to hope for more this year, obviously, as well. I hope to actually challenge him through the entire season, but we'll see how that goes. Now, next up, we've got Ferrari, runners up last year, but a lot of problems with the team, Louis, in terms of just the organisation, really. It wasn't really the car last year that was the problem for the most part.
No, it wasn't. It was just their inept ability of creating a race-winning strategy. You know, they do have a lot of wrinkles to iron out in their team, and I think they will try their hardest this year and over the break to iron out all those wrinkles and really show that their car is competitive on the track rather than them just screwing themselves over and over again.
Yeah, it wasn't a perfect car by any stretch, was it, Jack? They did struggle around some tracks, and it wasn't, to do with their strategy or whatever. It's just the car didn't have pace around some of them. I mean, what's your take on it? Would you say that this car looks like a genuine evolution of last year's, or a complete redesign? Because I think it looks quite similar to last year's, really.
It does very much. I think that is, from what we've seen so far, that seems to be the trend. It's more evolution, not revolution. There's no point in doing that now. And Ferrari were able to make use of what is quite a classic design of, if you go back to Ferrari's back catalogue, they were always very fast in the straights, those V12s and so on. But nowadays, it seemed to work for him. The law of diminishing returns means that there's not much to find, but in terms of the strategy department, if last year was to go anything to go by, yeah, they've got so much to work on there. That would be their priority, more than changing a car that they could have made work for him.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? It's to do with the strategy and everything. I mean, Owen, if Ferrari do iron out these strategy issues, they should be title contenders really this year.
Absolutely. I mean, I hear that the car is pretty drastically changed from last year, and there's no shortage of effort going into the development of the car. But as you say, it's really the strategic side that needs to, and operational side that really needs to kind of step up as well. I did hear that there may be some kind of aerodynamic problems as well, but difficult to say whether that's just some kind of mind games going on there or if that's actually, true.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? There's all these rumours and stuff, especially when a team's not performing as they should be. The media will find something when sometimes there isn't. But testing will show us, hopefully, how good the car is. But obviously, Ferrari in general, throughout the V6 era, have had amazing testing times. They've gone for the headlines, they've gone for the Hollywood laps, when other teams have just gone for consistency and reliability runs. So it's going to be difficult to see how good the car is through testing, really.
I think just last year there was a catalogue of errors, and a lot of the time it felt like they were overthinking themselves, particularly in like Baku with the tyres in Q2, and then I don't know what the hell they were doing in Monaco. Even as an armchair strategist, you can just see this stuff going wrong. In terms of strategy, that should be, I imagine, one of the easier elements to fix into. Like, it's not like of R&D into downforce and improving the engine and stuff. That should be, even like Red Bull and the lower teams, you can have, even if you haven't got the car, you can have the better strategy team. And I think for this year, I've seen some stuff written about that they've moved away a little bit from the whole sort of low drag car at the expense of downforce, and they're trying to put a bit more downforce onto the car. And, so that hopefully will mean tyre wear might be a little bit better because they're able to bring them up to temperature quicker and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, Matteo Binotto last year said as well, this is after the change in management, this was like there were those growing pains and stuff like that. So hopefully this year they'll be able to be on it straight out of the gate.
Fingers crossed for them. Yeah, we just want to see a challenger in a way. We want to see other teams being competitive. And another team that we're hoping to be a bit more competitive this year, especially since they've got two drivers that should hopefully, fingers crossed, like the car this year, Louis, are Red Bull. And the car I'd say, looks quite drastically different, especially at the front this year from last year's entry.
Yeah, I saw the front end picture. I was like, wow, the front nose is quite narrow. They it's that sort of wide, flat approach that they had, and they've sort of gone for a more Mercedes-esque narrow front nose, and they've got these sort of little asterisks kind of winglets on the top of the of the nose as well, which I spotted. I was like, wow, that looks pretty cool. But it does seem to be this side zero approach this year. Everyone trying to get very narrow cars, do a lot of development on the side pods. So it's been a drastic change, but I assume that Red Bull will still have the same sort of philosophy of a chassis for the likes of Monaco and really look to make performance gains there.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Red Bull. You know, they've arguably had the best car in terms of downforce, or at least, you know, on par with Mercedes or close to it. But it's the straight line speed that's been letting them down. But I think having the narrower approach like that, Jack, is probably going to help them, especially, again, that Honda power unit. They made massive gains last year. If they do the same again this year, they could be rivaling Mercedes and Ferrari in terms of horsepower.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we saw in some surprising areas, actually. China, I think it was the first time it showed up, a Red Bull topping the speed trap consistently, which is not something we've seen for a very long time. And if they've managed to adjust that and move that into this car, yeah, absolutely. They could. There's no reason why they can't take it to Mercedes.
Yeah, definitely. And another thing as well, Owen, as well, you know, Red Bull, they've got, much like McLaren, they do have two drivers that, you know, the young, the fast, and they've also got a lot of passion behind them too. You know, they perhaps in a way don't have as good as Mercedes and Ferrari, but in terms of the drivers, they're not far off, really.
No, they've got a very strong lineup. I think the focus of that team is definitely with Max, but that's kind of possibly understandable. But all the kind of mood music from Honda and Christian Horner is very kind of bullish and positive. So I think they think they've got a chance this year. So let's see if they can close the gap.
Do you think they'll have a chance this year, Reece? I mean, they won some races last year, but they were quite chaotic for the most part. Brazil and Austria and Germany. A telling sign will be if they manage to win it in quote unquote normal circumstances, really.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking about Ferrari with it sort of being a growth year. It was definitely the case for Red Bull, especially with Honda. That relationship seemed to work like straight away. There was I can't remember any major hiccups. They just seemed to keep improving, and the car, the whole package seemed stronger than it did in 2018, I thought. And they've got a driver in Max Verstappen who I think is more than ready to challenge for the title now. He just needs the car to do it. And as I say, we're all praying that Red Bull are able to bring a car to challenge Mercedes. With the drivers, I think the hype around Albon might die down a little bit now. Now it's a new season and everything. I mean, he could have done anything in replacing Gasly. If it was better than Gasly, it would have been celebrated and praised. I think he might struggle a little bit more this year with Max. I don't know. Just a feeling.
Well, Verstappen's not an easy teammate to have.
No.
I do see what you're saying, though. You never know. He could price the challenges. He's shown that he's very quick, and he was really unlucky last year not to get a podium, as we were discussing before the show in Brazil.
Yeah.
Very unlucky man because of that. Now, normally, as you've probably noticed, especially people who watch the videos, I do go in order. I'd go back to Louis now, and I'll run a new team. But I'm going to break the cycle because we have in our midst someone who's actually been to this car, has touched it, has seen it, and even been there for the reveal. Owen, that McLaren this year is an absolute beauty. I'm not just saying that because you're on the show. I think it is an absolute stunner in terms of how it looks. And it's got some very radical design elements to it as well.
Yeah. I mean, I've been lucky enough to spend quite a lot of time with it and be very close to it. And there are a few things that really kind of stand out. Is it feels like last year's car, but it's gone on a kind of quite radical diet. It's really been slimmed down, especially the nose, and again, especially at the rear as well. It's a lot slimmer than it was last year. So that makes it look kind of quite purposeful and aggressive. The barge boards are completely different to how they were last year. And I think, obviously, I was lucky enough to be at the launch, and I think the kind of atmosphere was good, was positive. And I think it's on a filming day today, and it'll obviously be testing it soon. And I think we probably might see quite a lot of changes coming onto that car against the car that was shown to the world at the launch.
It's an incredible experience for you, I'm sure. I mean, how did it come about? How did you manage to get in that position to go from fan to person that was actually there, like revealing the car?
Yeah, it was incredible. I mean, I've been a fan for quite a while, and I was at work and I got a video call from Carlos Sainz offering me the chance to be involved in unveiling it. So there was 4 of us pushing the car out onto the stage, and I was lucky enough to be one of those people. But yeah, it was a real, it was a kind of mind-blowing experience, to be honest, and I'm still kind of coming down from it, I think.
I really don't believe it. So how did that come out? How did you get the Skype call from Carlos Sainz? Did you enter a competition, or did you write mail to him every week? Like, what did you do?
Well, as I say, I've been a fan, and McLaren have this thing whereby they have a kind of, they give an honour to their most kind of loyal fans, and it's called Papaya membership, and this is something that you can't buy effectively, but so I think there's about 50 people have received that honour. So once you have that Papaya membership, you kind of are lucky enough to be given certain opportunities throughout the year, and it's obviously up to you whether you want to take them up or not. So I knew that I was going to the launch anyway because of this Papaya membership thing, and then this was I don't know, it's like the cherry on top as well. But yeah, I was blown away by it and really grateful for it, honestly.
I bet, yeah. So did you get to meet Carlos Sainz, Lando Norris, Zach Brown, people like that, or? Yeah,
and Andreas Seidel, met him a lot like obviously I was backstage, and a lot of the Sky guys were there, so like Simon Lazenby was there, and yeah, it was a lot to unpack.
I bet, yeah. It's weird when you meet someone you've seen so much on telly or whatever, and you see him in person. You do get starstruck. It's really something that people experience. It's yeah, I'm absolutely chuffed for you, mate. It's incredible you managed to do that. I mean, what are your hopes for McLaren this year? I mean, obviously last year was very good in terms of what they did. They even got first podium since 2014. And do you think this year that they've got a genuine chance of challenging Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes for the podium?
I think this year, as far as I can tell, is going to be about reducing the gap to the top 3. Whether we get near enough to the top 3 to kind of get into that fight is kind of, I think that's probably up for debate for just now. But if we can get closer to the top 3, then I think I would actually take that. I would be happy with that, because that would represent quite a bit of progress. It's those last kind of tenths of a second that are always the hardest to get. So let's see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a chance. I mean, in qualifying, especially last year, McLaren were challenging the Red Bulls around some track. There was the race pace that was letting them down slightly, but compared to where they were the previous year, absolutely mesmeric. What was it, like 2 seconds around some tracks, something like that?
Yeah,
massive improvements.
Yeah, I think an improvement on the track, but also an improvement kind of off the track with the drivers, and just a much better atmosphere in the team, really, and that delivers its own kind of benefits as well, really.
Definitely, yeah. I'm going to ask you a slightly difficult one now. Do you feel that better atmosphere was due to a lack of Fernando Alonso in the team, or?
Well, I think the chemistry between Carlos and Lando is great. I mean, I was, as I say, I was lucky enough to be at this launch, and the two of them are exactly how they are on TV, on these unboxed videos and things like that. They're always laughing and joking with each other, and it's great. There's a really kind of positive vibe, and whether it wasn't there because of Fernando or not, I wouldn't like to say, but I know what it's like just now, and it's great. So long may that continue, because the two of them are pushing McLaren forward together, if you like.
Absolutely, and they're improving as drivers too. They're really young. What's Lando, 20, and Carlos Sainz 26, 25.
Yeah,
but they've got a very bright future ahead of them. And Carlos Sainz is also in talks with McLaren apparently for extending his contract before the season starts. That's showing a lot of faith in the team.
Yeah, I hope they can get that together, and I don't see any reason why they wouldn't want to do that.
Absolutely, yeah. Things are looking very good for McLaren going into this year. Let's hope that they do well this year. Let's hope even if they do stay fourth, like you said, let's hope that they close the gap in terms of points and time to the current top 3. It'd be great to see more challenges up there at the front. That's what you want. That's what all of us want as F1 fans, I'm sure. Now, a team that haven't really revealed their card, it confuses what's going on with them, really. Renault, last year's 5th place team. Now, they haven't revealed the car yet, Louis. They're planning on doing it at testing, aren't they? But they have done a pre-reveal or something like that. It's strange what's going on there at the moment.
Yeah, I think they uploaded some renders of the car, but it wasn't any full images of the car. It was very select angles, and it's in their black testing livery. So I don't think they're even going to be launching their livery at testing. I think it's just going to be that same black car. So it's very strange. Like, I read on Twitter somewhere that I think it was Andrew Benson who said that the car isn't actually built yet, and that they were taking the built car to Catalonia for the first test, which is hard to tell whether it's a bad thing because they've struggled and not got the car built, or in a way they're hiding a lot of development and sort of stuff that they've done over the winter.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's really hard to know what's going on behind closed doors. But Jack, personally, my opinion is that it doesn't seem particularly good. But you could also argue that they might have found a problem early and are dealing with it instead of getting it out on track and then finding it.
Absolutely. I think I saw the same article as Louis, and I initially didn't think it was a good idea, but now you said that, I can see what you mean by it being potentially a good thing, because if anyone needed to make big moves in terms of development, it would be Renault. It's a works team that's behind a privateer, 2 privateers, in fact. And that's not really on for what Renault's going to be investing. In terms of what we've seen so far, a lot of that, it's all avoided the front end of the car, which is really the last big area for changes before the new overarching changes come in. The nose does seem a lot more slimmer and a lot more aggressively designed in terms of leading down to the front wing. We haven't seen any of the front wing yet, but there certainly seems to be a much more narrow design to, like, from the suspension pickup points down. So I'll be interested to see that when it does finally get revealed in proper.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see what's going on, but it's not exactly confidence inspiring, is it? I mean, and this is a team, Owen, that have to perform like Jack said. They are a works team. They were beaten by McLaren with the same engine. They were almost beaten by Toro Rosso, Red Bull's second team last year. The pressure's definitely on.
Yeah, there's no shortage of money going into that team, and you would expect them to move forward. But I know that over the winter, there's this kind of transition of technical directors going on there, one leaving and one arriving from McLaren, actually. So I can't help but wonder if the new chap has kind of seen something and changed something, and maybe that's causing these delays that we're seeing just now. But I'm speculating. Let's see.
We'll have to see what happens with them, really. I mean, maybe they'll get to testing and the car will be amazing and everything will work perfectly. Who knows? Probably not, though, let's be honest. But that's the thing, though. If Renault get a decent car, though, Reese, they've got 2 great drivers this year to really power it forward. I mean, Hulk was no slouch last year. I'm still annoyed that he's not in it this year. Obviously, they got Daniel Ricciardo and Esteban Ocon as well. 2 drivers that are very, very fiery, very quick. It's the driver pairing that you want, but it's the car that's letting him down at the moment.
Yeah, I think Ocon will lift spirits a little bit, bringing a new driver in like that. You do get the sense at Renault that there's a little too much politics going on, maybe. It just doesn't seem like the best environment. Like, McLaren seems like it's in a much healthier place now, but before that, it was struggling quite a bit. You also get the sense with Renault that there's a board of directors or something ready to pull the plug, and that can't be a good environment to work in, knowing that you could lose everything if they decide to pull Renault out, like they have done a few times. It would be good if... I really don't know if they're going to stay, to be honest. The sensible thing to do, I think, would be to stay and just see how 2021 goes. But this project has gone on for quite a while now, and it doesn't seem like they're making much progress.
No, they're not. They've stagnated over the last few years. They need to make a big improvement this year, but possibly they're waiting for 2021. That's their next big chance to get up to the top. It'd be unrealistic for them to expect to challenge for podiums regularly this year.
Yeah, I mean, they've said that, I think Cyril Abiteboul said, they weren't going to have a car launch and stuff because you didn't really see the point in that. But you just get the sense that that's more of a PR cover-up sort of thing. I don't know. Only they know. If the car's good, then they're going to have a great year. If not, who knows if they'll be here in a few years' time.
Who knows? Yeah, and it's going to be hard for them to attract new people to the team as well in that sense. Because do you want to move there from this team? They might be gone in a few years. Who knows?
Yeah. Ricardo did. Yeah.
Yeah, other factors though conspired against him for that, I think. But yeah, now a new team in terms of their name, it's still the same old Toro Rosso, really, just a new name, AlphaTauri. I love that new name; it's brilliant. And what I love even more, Louis, is that livery on that car. That is an absolute stunner. I love it.
It is an absolutely beautiful car. Like even when you see the pictures of it side on, the way that's done the livery just looks absolutely incredible. And yeah, it's in terms of the actual car, it's also very different from the Toro Rosso last year. They've done some improvements and some development around the car, and I'm expecting good things from AlphaTauri now, because they had a decent season last year, 2 podiums, and I think they can continue to push on and get consistent point finishes.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, they had an incredible year last year. I think in terms of overall finishes and stuff, they might have even beat the year that Vettel when he won in 2008. But I'm not 100% sure on that. But Jack, there's definitely a chance that they could improve their 6th place from last year into 5th if Renault are having troubles.
Yeah, absolutely. Like as we discussed, things don't look all too well for Renault, and this is their chance. You sort of get that feeling like since this rejig came around after they took the development role in with the Honda engines and changing the whole back end of the car to better mimic the Red Bull to allow for better development. It seems to have sort of rejuvenated them a little bit, and there's a lot of much needed momentum for them. And like I say, if Renault's a bit out at sea, they're gonna go for it. And I haven't seen anything about them changing that philosophy. So, assuming that they are still using the Red Bull back end, it should make the development in what will be a minimal year in terms of changes, I would imagine, be much easier and much more cost effective for them.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing as well. They are on a budget. I mean, they're a certified B team at the end of the day, Owen. But last year they really, really overperformed where they should have done. And they absolutely deserve what ended up in the end. They capitalised on people's mistakes.
Yeah, I suppose nobody really expected much of them last year, and perhaps that kind of played in their favour. I have to say, to my uneducated view, the car looks very similar to last year's Red Bull car. That's probably not a bad thing.
The cynical view there.
But I have to say also that they've done a great job with the delivery on that car, and they've taken a lot of risks and done something really quite dramatic and striking, and it's great to see that in Formula One. A lot of other liveries have very much played it safe, if you like. So kudos to them for doing that.
Yeah, they might not be the fastest race, but they're definitely going to look good while they're going around track. I mean, and as well with Pierre Gasly and Daniel Kvyat in the car, they've not got bad drivers at all.
No. I mean, testing, it's all, you can be misled and everything, but you can always rely on the livery. You know what you're getting with it, and it does look really, really nice. You had to sit through what felt like a 3-hour fashion show before they revealed the car, when they were sort of mincing about in cagoules and stuff. But the car does look nice, and it's crazy that it's been the same livery since. I mean, I started watching it in 2008, and it's been pretty much the same since then. There's been a few little changes in that. Yeah, but I think the driver lineup, Kvyat, I don't know what they're going to do with Kvyat. He just seems to be there at the moment. Not that he's not fast or anything. It just doesn't seem like. I don't see where his future would be and stuff like that. I feel like I'm being really negative, but
you are a bit, but I do know what you mean.
Yeah.
It does seem a little bit like he's almost a placeholder for the next Red Bull Junior driver whenever he comes along. But there's not really anybody there at the moment for him. So.
And Gasly, I don't think they can put him back in Although 2021, if the car was different and everything, maybe they could try him. But I don't see him driving a works Red Bull again. But they look good in the livery looks good, and the fashion, I don't know, maybe it looks good. I couldn't tell, but yeah. So, I mean, they had a fantastic year yesterday with those 2 podiums in those manic races, and they were there when it counted. So clearly they're doing something right.
They are indeed doing a lot right, yeah. Now, going down the grid a little bit now, Racing Point, almost said Force India there. Almost calling it every time. Same with Alfa Romeo and Sauber. But yeah, no, a radically different livery this year, but it's still pink. It's still another bit BWT on there. But that's not for much longer though, Louis. As it's been revealed, they're going to be changing their name soon.
Yes, to Aston Martin. I was kind of hoping Aston Martin would buy out Red Bull, but I guess I'll just have to deal with this. But I'm happy that Aston Martin are coming into Formula One. I'm hoping that they bring their Endurance Championship livery with them, because I can't stand that pink for much longer. It's one of the beautiful lime green that the Aston Martin is racing in Le Mans. So yeah, so this year is going to be it's going to be a strange year to be a Racing Point fan. You're going to not really know what to expect. I think their job this year is trying to keep Sergio Perez happy and keep him in the drive, because there are definitely talks that he may be leaving if he doesn't get the chance to sort of go further up the grid.
It'll be a massive buyout though if they're trying to if Perez does leave. I think, was it 2023 as his contract until something like that? It'd be a big old buyout to get him out of that team. I think he'll stay there for what it's worth, to be honest. But who knows? But regardless, though, Jack, it'd be good to have British Racing Green back on the grid after a few years now. Caterham were the last one to have that, and let's not talk too much about how they did.
I mean, I wouldn't exactly call it British Racing Green, but you'll certainly see it coming. So, Racing Point will be keeping the trend going. That's just a bit more successful than Aston Martin's first year at WEC with the new car. But anyway, yeah, it'll be a much needed money injection. It's good to have Aston Martin involved in F1 after all their time mincing around, will they, won't they, whatever. It's still very much like Alfa Romeo and Sauber. It still seems very much a branding exercise and not a change in personnel too much. So it will still be at Silverstone, same factory and all that, but bringing in the Aston Martin branding and money. That is what Racing Point will. That is what they will need more than anything. So, yeah, it should work out for them. In theory, it should work out for them.
Definitely, yeah. And I think because Racing Point aren't a brand, they're just a name. That's all they are. But having Aston Martin, having that finance behind them, even though they have a billionaire owner already, Owen, it's what they need to go to the next step. Because realistically, all they're going to do right now is just be in the midfield, really. Yeah,
you tend to think that the focus is really going to be on next season and not this season. They must be thinking about that. My understanding is that Aston Martin want to be seen as a manufacturer team, like a properly fully fledged Aston Martin team. So if that's happening, then yeah, there's going to be a lot of changes in that team. But they're currently pretty well resourced already, and it looks like that might be even better going forward. So that probably is good news for them.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Let's move on to Alfa Romeo. Now, it's kind of hard to see what's going on with this one, Reece, just because they've released it with just the black testing livery. They haven't gone into detail about whether it's going to be red and white again. I imagine it's going to be red and white again. But it's kind of hard to tell what's going on. I know that is literally the point of having the black testing livery, but it's going to, where do you see them being this year? Because it's kind of awkward for them, really.
Yeah, the pictures were smart. The car looks racy and everything, but I don't know how it'll perform on track. Last year, they started off quite well, but then they slipped back. I honestly don't have a clue where Alfa Romeo are going to be. Hopefully, they'll be able to improve on last year, but it's impossible to tell. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, where do you see them being? Probably mid-table again, like last year. But They were 8th overall in the constructors, which sounds quite bad, but really it wasn't a bad year considering where Sauber were before that.
No, it was. They are a team that's really difficult to predict where they're going to be because races they were so up and down. They had some races where they performed absolutely amazingly, and then some where they just didn't. And it was so strange to see such a topsy-turvy season. Hopefully they can sort of straighten that out, get some more consistency. That's the only thing I could really hope for from Alpha.
I think, like you mentioned, the reason why they were so topsy-turvy, Jack, is because they designed the car, because on a limited budget, obviously, like all the teams to an extent. So they had to design the car for certain types of tracks. They went for the more high-speed tracks. The more downforce-orientated ones, they seemed to struggle.
Yeah, you did see, it's like what Louis said, it was very much a min-maxy sort of season. To be honest, with the big rule shake-up coming, I can't see them changing the design philosophy all that much. As we said, with that snakeskin livery, you can't really see any details as they would have intended, I suspect. But I think if they can get one up at least on the Constructors' Championship, that'll be a bit more prize money to go into the development fund, and I think that's what they can really hope for, just to not have one race where they'll finish in 6th and 7th, and then the next one being last, all but the Williams. So, yeah, it's just nailing down a bit more, getting rid of those 8th and 19th position places and bringing it back up into more top 10s.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they go on Alpha. I mean, they're good drivers, like we said. But Kimi Raikkonen, 40 now, 41 by the end of the year. We'll see how he's coping with the fitness level and everything. I do have faith he will be all right with it. But yeah, now moving on to the penultimate team, the last team that's actually revealed their car on the constructors list, Haas. Now, Owen, I think this is another car that when I saw it, I just thought, that looks cool. But I've looked a bit more in detail at it, and just from the images we've seen, it looks quite safe with its aerodynamics. It don't look too out there, really.
No, and they're coming off the back of a really poor season last year for them. So yeah, I'm not feeling confident about them performing well this year. I don't know why. I just don't. I don't get a good feeling about that team. Let's see. I could be wrong.
You never know. I mean, they got the Ferrari engine in the back. That was best engine in terms of power last year, Reese. But it's other issues with the car, really. Downforce, the overheating of the tyres. They got some big issues in that car that they need to solve going into this year.
Yeah, I think it was the tyres a lot last year, and they never seem to get to grips with the car, and it seems fast on one track. It seems fast in qualifying, and then come the race. I think Austria, they were quite quick in qualifying, and then they completely dropped back. It's like it just seems they're always struggling, and the only consistent thing is that they're inconsistent. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be Steiner's therapist after last year. I mean, it was just so up and down and everything. I hope they do well. Magnussen, I think it'd be good to see him get some good results and everything. I mean, even keeping Grosjean, I don't have a clue why that happened. They could have taken Hulkenberg.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it was to do with money and
it always is, isn't
things.
It?
But yeah, Hulkenberg would be a lot better fit in that team than Grosjean. If Grosjean keeps his seat for next season, I don't know. I mean, who knows? He could do amazing this year. He's got talent, but I think he needs a refresh. To be honest, I think he needs.
I think the thing people say about Grosjean is he's quick. He's one of the quickest on his day, but everything needs to come together for it to work out. And he just seems to make a lot of mistakes, doesn't he?
Mm. Well, one of the phrases that I used quite a lot last year, Louis, was how do you preview Williams? There's not really much to say other than that Latifi is now the second driver for the team. They still have George Russell in the car. But we don't know anything about the car yet, and based on last season, we might not know anything about the car until the second test, maybe.
I don't know what to say.
I'm giving you a difficult one there. I'm sorry. We've got to at least mention them. They are still there.
Do you think they'll have a snakeskin livery?
Just a big rocket across the side, even bigger than last year. I think if I was to make an educated prediction, I can only say that surely it can't be any worse than the start of last year.
Very famous last words. I won't put any money on that.
They've already won up. They haven't failed crash testing, so they've already won up at least.
There's still nothing to say that they won't be at the first test, so that's good. Whether they actually run at the first test is another thing, of course. But their car at the end of last season was faster than the one at the start. So even if they just did bring the last the car from Abu Dhabi, it's still quicker than what they had in Australia. So, but there has to be some improvement. Of course, they're the team that have been selected for the 2021 sort of car test for this year. So they're probably going to put their eggs in that basket. Yeah,
and who can blame them, really? But, in all seriousness, I do genuinely wish Williams all the best this year. I'm hoping for a much better year from them. It can't get much worse than last year, really. It's sad to see a team that's got such a history like them struggling so bad. Let's hope testing goes all right for them. And in George Russell as well, they have a very good driver. They've got a real future star in that car and a current, just great. I mean, he's been brilliant for them so far. But yes, so that's all 10 teams previewed. Thank you for joining us, lads. Thank you for sharing your stories and everything. Really do appreciate it as always.
No problem.
Thank you.
We are available as well on YouTube. Just search for the F1 Chronicle on there. Same with Spotify. Search for the Formula One Grid Talk podcast. We're also on Google Podcasts, Apple Music. We've got a Reddit as well if you're looking to voice your opinions on how to improve the show. Just search for new F1 podcast looking for feedback and see ours there. We're also on Omni Studio and Pocket Cast. And we also have a Patreon as well up now if you want to invest in some better mics and better lights and stuff like that. I'm sure people have noticed my nose sometimes disappearing when I've got the light shining at night. But yes, just search for Formula One Grid Talk on Patreon and donate anything you can. We really do appreciate it. We've been getting, in the off-season, the listenership it's exploded. We've gone on to well over 300 on most episodes, 400 on some as well. So really do appreciate that. The support's incredible from you guys as well. We'll be back in a week's time to review the first week of testing. Hopefully all 10 teams will run during that test, so we'll be able to talk about them. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.